Alright guys, welcome to another quick Python tutorial. Today we are just going to do a very basic guessing game that's going to wrap all the selection and iterative structures kind of together. In one example, we'll do both flowchart and pseudocode. Our guessing game is going to allow us to guess at a random number the computer will choose between 1 and 10. It will tell us if our guess was too high or too low, and we will keep guessing until we get it correct. So no tries or anything here. Again, it's going to be fairly simple. So full pseudocode here, we're going to have our start and our stop. Okay, and in between we are going to have to make some declarations for variables. Now, in terms of variables that we're going to need to keep track of, both of them should be numbers. The first one is going to be a random value that's going to store the random number that we want to generate. The second one is going to be the guess we are going to take, so I'll call it numGuess. As far as our inputs go, well, there's a couple things we need to kind of set before we can get into this problem. Well, first we're going to need to set the random value, so we'll say set random value to some random number, okay, from 1 to 10. Right? And we may not know how to do that in Python just yet, depending on where we're at, but it's a fairly simple command that comes from the random library or the random package. But for pseudocode and for logic, we can definitely attempt to do something like this. And now we're going to input our guess. Right? Since we already have the random value chosen by the computer, that means we can take a guess, and then we can start checking to see whether or not our guess is correct. So now to do this, we could put in an if statement here that'll say if my guess is equal to the random value, then we're done. Otherwise, we can get into some stuff, but actually I'm going to use a looping activity here because I want to keep guessing over and over again until I'm correct. I very well could be correct on the very first iteration, which is why a preconditioned loop is most appropriate, something like a while loop. So I'm going to say while my guess is not equal to the random value, okay, that's when I want to keep guessing and telling myself if I'm too high or too low. If this is false right away and those two things do match, then we completely skip the loop and we don't have to guess anymore, which is kind of nice, and we'll finish out our program. But while it's incorrect, while our guess is not equal to the random value, we want to check to see if our guess was too low or too high. So I might say something like if guess is less than random value, then I might just simply display that our guess was too low. Oops. Now, if our guess wasn't less than the random value, then it must be greater than the random value because we sure know it's not equal to the random value because our while loop already checked that condition. So I can just use a two-way selection structure here and say else. Okay? And here I can say display the guess was too high. Okay? And that's kind of the tricky part, is the fact that I don't have to account for it being equal because I've already done that in the while loop. Okay, the while loop has already judged whether or not it's equal or not. We know it's not equal, so I don't have to confuse ourselves with trying to test to see if it is equal. Once it's done, remember the third part to any conditional loop is to change the control variable. My control variable here is guess, so I need to input the guess again. Okay, and notice it's not lodged within any of these selection structures, so I'm able to guess each and every time. Now, the next part of this is once we get out of the loop, we're only out of the loop for one reason, because we got it right. So now I can just simply print some sort of congratulations or display some sort of congratulatory message. Okay, that's pretty simple. It's about as easy as a guessing game can get. We could incorporate other things like a number of attempts, making sure that we only do 5 attempts. Maybe we tell us we were too low or too high based on a range of values, so we're like really, really low or really, really high, things like that. That's all stuff that you can kind of play with as you go. Now, as far as a flowchart goes, this should be a pretty quick setup. Let's drag in our terminal symbols. We're going to say start. Okay. And we'll bring in our process symbol. Okay, we want to make our declarations. And here we want the number for the random value. Here we want a number for the guess. Okay. Now I didn't do this in the pseudocode, but you could definitely do this in the pseudocode or in the flowchart. Let's say you wanted to just set this right away, and that way it's not part of your actual code. You can initialize this right off the bat and just say random value 1 to 10, something like that. That would work as well. You're completely okay doing something, initializing something in the declaration phase, as long as it's simple enough to do so. Okay, so that means I really only have the one input. So here's my IPO process. I'm going to drag in an input. I'm going to input the guess. Again, these are a little different because I initialized it during the declaration, the random value, but same basic idea. Once the guess is put in, now I want my decision to come in and get made, right? And I want to say something like my guess is not equal to the random value. And I don't need to put the word while here or anything special because I'm already going to be able to tell that it's a looping structure based on the flow lines, so there's no need to include that. So now I want to make another condition, so let's drag that in. And we'll say guess was lower than the random value. Now if that's true, all right, so let's drag a flow line from there to there. And if that's true, I simply want to display that my guess was too high, or guess was too low, sorry. So we'll say display. Okay. We'll kind of drag that out so it looks a little nicer. We'll bring that here. There we go, connect. And then we'll need another one of these. Right, I'll just drag it over here, nice and even, and we'll display the guess was too high. And we'll bring this over here, and on this side we're definitely saying yes, and on this side we're saying no. Okay, so there's my two-way selection structure. So here's my if, here's my else. And we can bring these things back together right underneath where we were. Okay. Probably be wise to bring in a new shape for input, and we want to make sure that we input our guess again. And so I'm just going to connect this to here, and we'll drag it back where it needs to be, and we'll just clean it up a little bit, no big deal. All right, drag it back over, and there we are. And now I just need that last flow line to kind of curl around, and this gets where it gets a little tricky. Now I can't get it to really bend that way, so remember I just need to let go, grab this handle, bend it out to the right, and that gives me some more handles to work with. And so now I can bring it right back to my question, which is exactly where I need it to be. Okay, so I'm going to drag that out, and there we go. So now this seems a little tight in here, so I'm going to select a bunch of this stuff right here. We're just going to click and drag, and we're going to grab all of these, and I'm just going to shift them over a little bit, and we can fix this line right here. That way we can even shift these over. Bring it over here. That way I can easily extend a line down here to display my congratulations. So I'm just trying to keep it clean, keep my center line all put together. Okay, we'll just say display congrats, and then we'll terminate our program. So again, this is what I really like to see. I like to see flowcharts that have this nice center line all the way down it. Start and stop are vertically aligned. That's very important to me. That the mainline logic is all here. When I start seeing indentation in my program, in my pseudocode and in my program, I should start seeing indentation in my flowchart as well. The only time we move to the right is when we have those conditions to check. So moving to the right on a while loop, okay? Moving down, okay, on that while loop gives me the ability to continue on that logic. Notice how the next thing is display. It matches with the while in my pseudocode here. It matches with my input. Everything that's in a straight line here is in a straight line over here. It gets me that ability to see everything very neatly and very nicely, and that is exactly what I want to see out of you as you're doing this. Okay, I want to see that straight line logic all the way down from start to stop, and as things start to branch, you have those branches over here. But again, straight line logic right underneath this question, again, right underneath this if statement is my input, so that should be right underneath that as well. The only time we went left or right is when we said yes or no to the question. Again, those are indented statements in pseudocode. Those would be indented statements in your Python as well, so that's why they're branched right and left. Okay, so just try to keep it as neat as possible. Yes, you may need a lot of paper for this, but it's computer paper. You're not even printing this. You're sending me a digital copy. So you're not wasting any paper whatsoever. So don't be fearful of wasting some canvas space. But that's it. I just want to see that straight line logic, and that gives us at least one good problem that you're seeing all the way through with pseudocode and flowchart. So in the next phase of this, we will probably be scripting some selection structures, looping structures, and probably this game all up in Python so that you can see how it all comes together. So until next time.